Welcome back everyone to a brand new SkillCapped video, and in this one we'll be bringing you up to speed with the meta as we break down our 11.10 mid-patch update tier list. As always, we've been keeping a close eye on how all the changes are affecting each champion and have brought together our challenger players to give you guys the most accurate tier list possible. For our question of the day, Riot's balance lead Mark Yetter has recently come out with a post saying the team will be looking at reducing systematic mobility. Stridebreaker is one of the items he mentioned that they'll be looking at closely and potentially planning to nerf or remove in the coming patches. So our question is, what are your thoughts on Stridebreaker as an item? Would you like to see it removed, or do you enjoy using it? I'm sure we'll get a lot of mixed opinions here, but we'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. To stay in the loop with all the content we have planned, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get right into it. Starting off in the top lane, let's take a look at Kayle. So far, Kayle's seen a really positive outcome from the changes, and combined with the Riftmaker buffs is now in a great spot. The core build is a Gnasher's Tooth into Riftmaker, and you hit a really nice 2-item spike once they're completed. In the lower ranks, where games tend to last longer, Kayle is an amazing pickup we would recommend for 11.10. Kayle does fall off a little in higher elo, however, she's still around an A tier pick. Since we weight champions strengthen lower elo more significantly when piecing our tier lists, Kayle will be placed in S. Circling back on the Darius nerfs, it's a relief for us to finally say that he's no longer an OP top lane pick. We dropped Darius down to S tier in our pre-patch tier list, and that's where he will continue to reside as the patch moves forward. If those proposed Stridebreaker changes end up going through within the coming patches, that could spell the end for Darius in Season 11. A Riftmaker user who's ready to be bumped up a slot is Mordekaiser. Riftmaker buffs are so great for Mord since he's a melee bruiser who wants to be up in your face, and therefore stacking Riftmaker is so much easier now. The buffs grant you stacks not only when dealing damage, but also when taking damage, so you can get the passive stacked up way more reliably. Just like Kayle, Mord is another pick we rate very highly for the lower ranks in 11.10, and he will be placed in S tier. So our top lane tier list will shape out pretty similar, as we've got Shen, Wukong, and Urgot as the power picks of the patch. As mentioned, both Kayle and Mord are jumping into S tier. Moving into the top 3 for our best low elo picks is Mordekaiser, joined by Garen and Urgot. Darius will now be shifting out of the top 3 must-ban category, and he'll be replaced by Set. Shen and Urgot are the other high-priority bans. And remember, if you want to improve fast and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out our hyper improvement system at SkillCapped.com. We have professional courses by the top players, Smurf commentaries where a challenger player walks you through how to climb out of every rank from iron to diamond, and we upload tons of new exclusive guides to our website each week. In fact, we're so confident you'll improve using our system that if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using SkillCapped, you can claim a full refund, so there's no risk. What are you waiting for? Check out SkillCapped.com and get the rank you've always wanted. Link in the description below. So far throughout 11.10, there really hasn't been any major shifts to the jungle meta despite the massive changes. Xin Zhao, Elise, Shaco, and Morgana are all still the most broken picks you should be spamming. We have seen a small positive effect on certain scaling junglers like Evelynn and Kayn, as the catch-up XP does give them an indirect boost. There's still something about seeing Hecarim down in C tier that makes me smile. Champ was way too broken for too long to not celebrate his fall into the gutter. We are hoping that these jungle changes could help open things up for off-meta picks to come back into the mix, but it hasn't played out that way. Champs like Camille and Sylas are still really struggling to find any footing in the jungle position. For the lower elos, our 3 must picks of the patch include Amumu, Xin Zhao, and Morgana. Scaling junglers are seeing way more success in the lower ranks this patch due to catch-up XP being reintroduced, which is having a very positive effect on Amumu. The 3 champs we have highest on our ban list in 11.10 are Shaco, Morgana, and Elise. A bunch of indirect changes to mid lane over the past few patches have left us with no choice but to move Sylas into OP tier. Phase Rush nerfs in 11.10 give so many melee mids, including Sylas, much easier access onto their target and have a greater window of opportunity to look for trades. Galio and Katarina nerfed is really great for Sylas too, since those were 2 matchups he was struggling with in previous patches. The 2-item spike of Everfrost and Cosmic Drive is insanely strong, which is a big factor to Sylas' strength. It wouldn't surprise us to see Sylas nerfed in the next few patches, so look to abuse him while you can. Katarina mains can exhale, as the move speed nerfs have only ever so slightly affected her power level. We anticipated Kat to drop down a little bit, but not enough for us to remove her from S tier, and that's exactly what's played out. The Riftmaker buffs definitely help to even out the effects of her move speed nerf. All in all, if you're a Katarina main, she remains in a great spot, so there's no reason to fret. It's not often we applaud Riot for how they buff or nerf a champion, but the Galio changes have actually been really good. The W shield nerf makes Galio a little more vulnerable, while the W cooldown nerf has a considerable effect on his extended teamfight power. Both nerfs were just enough to remove Galio from being an OP pick, as he now stands as a fairly balanced low S tier champion. It's a sad patch for Ryze mains. As if Ryze wasn't already in a terrible state for solo queue, Riot goes ahead and nerfs Phase Rush without any compensation buffs. Phase Rush being a strong rune was one of the few things keeping Ryze afloat, so now that it's nerfed, we'll be dropping him down into the garbage can. Alright, our mid-tier list will feature Sylas, Rumble, and Zed in the OP tier. Although Kayle is played predominantly up in the top lane, mid-Kayle gets a boost as well due to the buffs. Kayle has always been a really great counter to the likes of Zed, and since he's played at a very high rate in 11.10, Kayle definitely has a place. Kayle will now be placed in our A tier. Mid-set is one to really keep an eye on right now. Really undervalued pick after his buff from last patch, and does well into so many meta mids. Definitely a sleeper right now if you enjoy playing those kind of champs. Once again, our 3 low elo recommendations for mid lane are Diana, Malzahar, and Annie. Vladimir, Sylas, and Zed are all really good ban options. Moving down to the bot lane, the nerfs to Jinx have played out very well so far. We mentioned in our pre-patch tier list that Jinx would be on the fence between OP and S tier, which is exactly where she's landed. Our analysts have decided to move Jinx into S, as the nerfs have impacted her a solid amount, and indirect changes to other ADCs have made her slightly weaker too. Vayne is the first pick who will be making a push upwards and replacing Jinx in the OP tier. Many compounding factors like the Rageblade buffs and Lulu being in meta are helping Vayne out a ton. Vayne is also one of the few ADCs who hasn't been nerfed in the past couple of months, so it was just a matter of time before she started rising up the ladder. Just like Vayne, Jin's been another ADC who's gone without a nerf for a few months and waiting patiently for his time to move back up. With Jinx nerfed, it gives us the go-ahead to move Jin from S to OP. So, like we just mentioned, Vayne and Jin are now the 2 OP ADC champs midway through patch 11.10. Jinx is still an amazing pick, but needs a little time to cool off after multiple patches of supremacy. By all means, continue to spam Jinx, as she's only dropping 1 tier into S. Kalista is ever so slowly making her way back up the tier list, as the Rageblade buffs from this patch combined with Wit's End buffs from 11.9 are helping her out. Continue to avoid Lucian, Xayah, and Aphelios until Riot decides to issue some buffs to these abominations. If you're in the lower elos, then adding one of Veigar, Sivir, or Misfortune to your champion pool is something our analysts would highly recommend. The top bans for 11.10 will be Vayne, Jinx, and Tristana. To round everything out, let's take a look at what's going on with the support meta. Senna has once again been dominating, and it's not much of a surprise, especially after one of her core items in Rageblade was buffed. Riot has come out and stated that they want to try and eliminate the tank Senna build from existing, so if you've been spamming the setup recently, you might not have much time left. What do you guys think of the tank Senna build anyways? It's cool that the champ has 2 diverse build paths, but at the same time, building tank on a champ who's designed as a marksman is surely pushing it a little. Nonetheless, Senna will keep her spot in OP throughout the rest of 11.10. For an update on the Thresh nerf, he's still an amazing carry pick, and rightfully so, since the nerf was relatively light. Considering Riot has nerfed Thresh for multiple patches in a row, it's likely they lay off for a bit, so now would be a great time to pick him up. Thresh was moved from OP into S during our pre-patch update, and that's where he will continue to stand for 11.10. So, we don't see any drastic changes to support for mid-patch 11.10. Senna, Leona, and Lulu are the must-pick or ban supports that can have the greatest influence on games. Lux and Yuumi are much better now after their buffs, so it's a good time to pick them up if you've been considering it in the past. To our surprise, Bard has come away from his nerf relatively unscathed, so we will be adjusting him back up into S tier where we had him before. Zyra is now a really strong pick for the lower elos due to her buffs, so she'll be joined by Brand and Leona in our top 3. Banning out one of Leona, Thresh, or Lulu will continue to be most optimal for the rest of the patch. And remember, if you want to improve fast and get the rank that you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. Alright everyone, that's going to be it for our quick mid-patch update tier list. The meta hasn't changed all too much throughout 11.10 despite the massive jungle changes, so there wasn't anything too crazy to report. To catch our 11.11 tier list and stay up to date with all future content, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you back here soon.